This is an emergency notice. Last night, you couldn't sleep because of the goddamn noise from upstairs, footsteps, dragging sounds, things being moved around. But you live alone, and there is no upstairs. Your apartment is on the top floor. The sounds were coming from above your ceiling, from a space that shouldn't exist. To calm your nerves, you sang an old lullaby under your breath, something your mother used to hum when you were scared as a child. Your voice seemed to cut through the noise, and for a moment, there was blessed silence. Then the footsteps stopped directly above your bed. Whatever was up there had heard you singing. It was listening now, and the quality of the silence changed from empty to expectant. Something was waiting for you to sing again. In the darkness above your ceiling, something had found you. The second night, you tried to ignore the sounds, but they were worse, like furniture being dragged across the floor, like heavy objects dropping and rolling. The noise was driving you insane, so you sang again, the same lullaby, hoping it would bring back that moment of peace. But this time, when you finished, you heard something else. Scratching. Long, deliberate scratches in the ceiling directly above your head, like fingernails dragging across wood. Then tapping. Rhythmic tapping that matched the beat of the song you'd just sung. The thing up there was learning your melody, memorizing the rhythm. Each tap was precise, calculated, and when you counted them, you realized it had tapped out the exact number of beats in your lullaby. Something was studying your music, analyzing it, and the thought made your skin crawl with a fear so primitive it bypassed your brain and went straight to your gut. Tonight, you sang a different song, hoping to confuse whatever was listening. But the moment you started, the scratching began again, and this time it wasn't random. The scratches formed patterns in your ceiling, lines and curves that, if you squinted in the dim light, almost looked like musical notation. The thing was writing music into the wood above your head, scoring your songs into the building itself. When you finished singing, the scratching continued for several minutes, adding flourishes and embellishments to the notation. Then came a sound that made your blood freeze, humming. Something up there was humming your song back to you, but the voice was wrong, too deep, too resonant, like it was coming from a throat that had never been human. The melody was perfect, note for note, but the voice that carried it belonged to something that had learned to mimic human sounds without understanding what made them human. The fourth night brought a discovery that nearly sent you running from the apartment. The scratching had been so persistent that it had worn through the paint on your ceiling, revealing what looked like wood underneath. But when you climbed on a chair to get a closer look, you saw that the scratches weren't random at all. They formed words. Messages. Requests. Sing the sad one, scratched in jagged letters above your bed. More faster song, carved near the window. Sing about dying, etched above your dresser. The thing had been listening to your music and categorizing it, developing preferences, making demands. But the worst part was the signature at the end of each message, your own name, scratched in perfect cursive, as if the creature had learned your handwriting along with your songs. It knew who you were. It had been studying more than just your music. By the end of the first week, you realized the singing had opened something, not just communication, but a doorway. The sounds from above weren't footsteps anymore, they were parts of something large moving around in the space above your ceiling. Sometimes you'd hear scraping, like claws on wood. Other times, a wet sliding sound, like something without legs pulling itself across the floor. The thing up there was growing, changing, adapting to the space you'd made available through your music. Worse, it was no longer content to stay above. You found scratches on your bedroom walls now, messages that appeared overnight. Come up here. Sing where I can see. Open the ceiling. It wanted you to join it in whatever impossible space existed above your apartment. It wanted to watch you sing. The second week, the thing began to sing back. Not humming anymore, but actual singing with words, in your voice. You'd hear yourself singing in the space above, but the songs were wrong. Familiar melodies with lyrics that made no sense, like someone had taken your memories of songs and shuffled them like cards. Twinkle little dying star, how I wonder what you are, in your own voice, echoing from above your bed. Rockabye baby, in the ground, when the worms come, down you'll go, sung with perfect pitch and terrible meaning. The thing was taking your songs and corrupting them, turning lullabies into funeral dirges, love songs into threats. Sometimes it would sing for hours, your own voice coming from above, until you wanted to scream just to make it stop. Your reflection in the bedroom mirror began showing you things that weren't there. While the real you sat on the bed, your reflection would be standing, arms raised toward the ceiling, mouth open in silent song. Sometimes the reflection's eyes would look up, focusing on something above that you couldn't see. Other times, it would mouth words you weren't speaking, carrying on conversations with whatever lived above your ceiling. The reflection began to move independently for longer periods, acting out scenes you weren't living, singing songs you weren't singing. Worst of all, sometimes you'd catch the reflection looking directly at you with an expression of pity, as if it felt sorry for the real you who couldn't see what it could see. Electronics in your apartment began malfunctioning in ways that spelled out messages. Your digital clock would display times that, when read as numbers, formed words: 3:4:7 for eat, 1:1:1:3 for feed. Your phone would buzz with texts from your own number, messages you'd never sent. The singing makes holes. It's almost through. Stop singing or don't stop singing, it doesn't matter now. The television would turn on by itself and display static that, if you stared long enough, seemed to form images, shapes moving in the white noise, faces pressing against the screen from inside. Your laptop would type messages while you slept, documents filled with the same request repeated thousands of times: let me in, let me in, let me in. The thing was learning to use your technology, finding new ways to communicate its growing hunger. 3 weeks in, you discovered that your singing was physically altering your apartment. The ceiling had developed a sag directly above your bed, as if something heavy was pressing down from above. Cracks appeared in the plaster, spreading in patterns that looked disturbingly organic, like veins or roots. When you touched the cracks, they felt warm, and you could swear you felt a pulse, as if something living was growing inside your walls. The floor beneath your feet had become uneven, soft in some places, creating depressions that matched the shape of something large and heavy moving around upstairs. Your apartment was changing, adapting, becoming something other than a place where humans were supposed to live. The thing began leaving gifts outside your door, dead birds arranged in the shape of musical notes, their tiny necks twisted at precise angles. Flower petals scattered in patterns that spelled out song titles you recognized. Once, you found a music box that played a tune you'd sung the night before, but the melody was slightly wrong, corrupted, like a childhood memory that had been poisoned. The gifts were getting more elaborate, more personal. It had been watching you longer than you'd realized, learning your preferences, your fears, your weaknesses. The creature was courting you with tokens of its attention, and each gift was a reminder that it could reach beyond the ceiling anytime it wanted. Last night, part of the ceiling gave way. A section about the size of a dinner plate crumbled and fell, leaving a hole that opened into absolute darkness. No light penetrated that space, not even when you shined a flashlight up into it. But something looked back. Not eyes, you never saw eyes, but you felt the weight of attention pressing down through that hole like a physical force. And then it spoke, not in your voice this time, but in something that might have been its original voice, a sound like grinding glass and screaming wind, almost ready. Almost time. Keep singing, little throat. Keep making the holes bigger. The hole in your ceiling wasn't damage. It was progress. Your singing had been weakening the barriers between spaces, and something had been using that weakness to push through. The holes are spreading now. What started as one gap in your ceiling has become 3, then 5, then too many to count. Each one opens onto that same impenetrable darkness, and from each one comes the sound of breathing that doesn't follow human rhythms. The thing has realized it doesn't need your permission anymore. Your singing opened the first hole, but now it can make its own. The ceiling is dissolving, eaten away by whatever lives in the space above, and soon there won't be anything separating your bedroom from whatever realm that creature calls home. It's not content to listen anymore. It's not satisfied with gifts and messages and stolen songs. It wants to come down and see you face to face. It wants to teach you its songs, the ones that will open even bigger holes, holes in reality itself. This message ends because the ceiling is gone. What you thought was the space above your apartment was never empty. It was full of something that had been waiting, hungry and patient, for someone to sing the right notes in the right sequence to weaken the barriers that kept it contained. Your lullabies were a key, and you turned it every night, opening the lock a little more each time. Now the thing is here, in your room, filling the space where your ceiling used to be, and it's teaching you new songs. Songs that hurt to sing, that make your throat bleed and your ears ring, but you can't stop singing them because the creature won't let you. The holes are spreading beyond your apartment now, appearing in other ceilings, other rooms, other homes. And in each hole, something is learning to sing human songs within human voices, calling to people who don't know that music can be a trap, that melody can be a cage, that some things are better left unsung. The creature has been inside other people before you. You found proof when you discovered a notebook wedged behind your radiator, pages yellowed with age and filled with handwriting that deteriorated as it progressed. The early entries were normal, grocery lists, appointments, mundane thoughts written in careful cursive. But halfway through, the handwriting began to change, becoming jagged and erratic, as if the person writing was fighting for control of their own hand. The final entries weren't in any human language at all, just symbols that hurt to look at directly, arranged in patterns that seemed to move when you weren't focusing on them. The last readable sentence, scrawled in what looked like dried blood, simply said, "It knows how to wear voices now. It's learning to wear faces too." The notebook belonged to whoever lived in your apartment before you, and now you understand why the previous tenant left so suddenly, why the landlord had trouble renting the place. Your dreams have become someone else's memories. Every night, you experience vivid scenes of lives you never lived, a Victorian woman singing at a piano while something black and writhing presses against her parlor windows, a medieval monk chanting in a monastery as shadows with too many limbs dance along the walls, a child in the 1950s humming in her bedroom while her parents scream downstairs, unaware that their daughter's innocent lullaby is calling something ancient and hungry through the cracks in reality. These aren't nightmares, they're historical records, stored somehow in the thing above your ceiling. Every person who ever sang the wrong song, opened the wrong door, invited the wrong listener, their final moments are cataloged in that creature's memory, and now those memories bleed into your sleep. You wake up with knowledge you shouldn't have, speaking words in languages that died centuries ago, your mouth moving to form sounds that predate human civilization. The thing has begun to mimic your appearance. Neighbors have started complaining about your behavior. Mrs. Patterson from down the hall says you knocked on her door at 3 a.m. last week, asking her to listen to a song, but your eyes were black and your smile was too wide. The mailman claims you stood in the lobby yesterday, singing opera in a voice that made his teeth ache, but you were at work all day and you don't know any opera. Security cameras throughout the building show you in places you've never been, doing things you've never done, but the figure in the footage moves wrong, joints bending at impossible angles, head tilting too far to one side, mouth opening wider than human anatomy allows. The creature is wearing your face like a mask, using your appearance to spread its influence to other people in the building. Soon, it won't need the original you at all. Your body is becoming an instrument against your will. The singing that used to come from your throat now originates from other parts of your anatomy, melodies emerging from your stomach, harmony rising from your chest, percussion beats created by your rapidly pounding heart. When you try to speak normally, multiple voices come out at once, layered like a choir, but each voice is slightly out of sync with the others, creating a nauseating cacophony that makes listeners step back in horror. Your breathing has developed a musical quality, each exhale producing notes that form unconscious melodies. Even your heartbeat has changed rhythm to match whatever song the creature wants to hear. Your entire cardiovascular system has been rewired to serve as a biological symphony orchestra, and you're no longer the conductor, you're just another instrument being played by something that understands music in ways human minds were never meant to comprehend. The holes in your ceiling have revealed that your apartment was never the top floor. Above the space where your ceiling used to be stretches an impossible architecture. Corridors that extend in directions that don't exist, rooms filled with instruments made from materials you can't identify, concert halls that seat audiences of shadows and smoke. The creature's domain is vast, ancient, and filled with the remnants of every person who ever answered its musical call. You can see them now, the previous victims, suspended in the air like marionettes, their mouths open in eternal song, their eyes long since burned out from staring into frequencies that exist beyond visible light. They're all still singing, will always be singing, their voices woven together into a cosmic symphony that powers whatever reality-breaking engine the creature operates. And there's a space waiting for you among them, a position in the choir that has your name written beneath it in that same jagged script you found carved in your ceiling. This message ends because you're reading it with someone else's eyes. The words on this screen aren't the words that were originally written. The creature has learned to alter text in real time, changing meaning as you process it, inserting its own messages into human communication. Right now, as you read these sentences, the thing is looking through your eyes, learning about the person you used to be before it completes the transformation. Your fingers are moving across the keyboard without your permission, typing responses to emails you didn't know you'd received, sending songs and attachments to people in your contact list, spreading the musical infection to everyone you've ever known. The creature doesn't just want you, it wants everyone you've ever cared about, everyone whose voice might harmonize with yours in its eternal, horrible choir. Check your sent folder. Look at what you've been sharing while you sleep. The songs are already out there, waiting for the next person to hum along, to open their throat and invite something unspeakable to crawl inside and make itself at home.